Liberosa Shoma joins us now. He's also a lawyer. And good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my pleasure always.
This fight is something that most lawyers have been about, and they say they're looking at the style, they're looking at the attitude, they're also looking at the judicial aspect of it. For Adegburwa, he thinks that the judiciary should be strengthened to help in the fight against corruption. How do you see us going about this, looking at the judiciary in this matter?
Basically, I agree with Ebu. The judiciary should be strengthened, not this aspect of, oh, let's create special court, let's create special this. We need to look at the judiciary holistically and find a way of overhauling, because all of these corruption cases, none of them will end at the high courts. They will all get to the Supreme Court. And if you look at the number of high courts at the state level,
how should they all get to the Supreme Court?
Because you find out that these people, these persons, the accused, we have all tried them and condemned them in the public space. And so, if the judgment do not go the way of public opinion, there will be pressure on the prosecutors to wanting to appeal such judgment. And if the judgment goes the way of public opinion, you know, a politician with, you know, large pocket would not want to ordinarily just rest at the high court level. And in most cases, you hear lawyers say, let the Supreme Court be the final, you know, arbiter in this matter, most especially with what we see now, conflicting judgment from high courts, tribunals, and the Court of Appeal. And so I can certainly tell you that most of these cases, if not all, will terminate at the Court of Appeal. And so you look at the number of high courts at the state level, and then the number of Court of Appeals to handle the appeals from these high courts. And then you look at the Supreme Court to handle appeals from all the numbers of this Court of Appeal. As I speak to you now, most of the normal everyday cases had taken the back burner. What we are dealing with presently now are anti-corruption cases, election petition tribunals, and so the other cases, as if there are no other cases in our courts, but they are there. And then also, if you look at our investigating arm, as we speak now, it's like the police is non-existent. It's only the EFCC, the EFCC, the EFCC that you hear of. Ordinarily, this is not supposed to be so. That is why, because the administration of criminal justice starts with investigation before even getting to court. And if your investigation is not thorough, you might just get to court and the judge says you have not been able to establish this case beyond reasonable doubt.
You look at this argument that so many people have brought before us, talking about those who are suspects and how this should be treated. For some other lawyers like yourself, they say it is very key that the government and agencies look into this, otherwise it just might spoil the whole essence of this fight against corruption.
Basically for me, if I wouldn't know what the prison officials saw, but if you look at Section 5 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, it empowers the prison officials to handcuff suspects they are bringing from prison custody to court. If in their opinion, the person will be violent, the person might attempt to escape, or the person to even, you know, stop the person from injuring himself, depending on the circumstance. So the law permits them, allows them, is a discretion. But if I were the prison officials, I would probably not have handcuffed Olisa Metu, because now what we are discussing, we are debating whether he's handcuffed or whether he's not. We're leaving the substance, the allegation of 400 million naira, and then the transfer of $1 million and all of that against the man. We're leaving all of this. We're discussing handcuff. And also, I need to explain this, that when suspects are brought from EFCC custody, they're usually not handcuffed. When Metu was brought from EFCC custody, he wasn't handcuffed. But it's a standard practice for prison officials when they are bringing accused persons to handcuff them, because it's a discretion. You probably don't know what might have transpired between them and that suspect. And then also because if anything happens As a prison official, nobody will listen to you. You had handcuff. Why didn't you handcuff the suspect? So nobody wants to joke with his deliberate.
So far, I mean, let's approach the substance. Now, would you say that this fight has been one-sided?
To a very large extent, I would say yes. The fight against corruption, it's not, it's corruption and party funds. What we're basically looking at is, the funds, arms funds used for campaign. We need to ask ourselves, where in Nigeria, where do party gets funding from for election?
That's a major question.
It's a major question. Once we ask that question and begin to look into all of the parties, you know, how did you get your funding? Where were the money coming from?
Do you think that that's a conversation we should be having? Because it was in that this is a little different, in the sense that what we're looking at right now is we're persecuting the war against Boko Haram, as it were, and our soldiers are supposed to have ammunition. It was in that was not the case. And then it was in the process of trying to find out how that money was spent that we're beginning to hear that some of it went into funding the parties.
No, basically, that's not the way the government painted the picture. The picture is war against corruption. Remember, at some point, the government attempted looking into the petroleum industry, and then they were crying about the Ziani this, the Ziani that, and subsequently she granted an interview from the UK in the hospital, and that died down. Then we went to the arms funding. If we're talking about security, and then we're not discussing fight against corruption, it's a different matter. We're prosecuting the war, and we're looking at what basically happened in the fight against Boko Haram. But if we say we're fighting corruption, for me, I don't have any problem with the fight so far. It's okay. Even if you say it's selective, we pray that we're able to strengthen our electoral processes, that someday we'll now be able to look into funding for political parties. But so far, if you look at it, you know, from observer's perspective, you would want to say that, look, why is it that it's been so one-sided? Is it that these are the only persons that are corrupt in Nigeria? Because, like I said, mind you,
do you buy the explanation?
Sorry to interrupt corruption.
Do you buy the explanation of the PDP, beg your pardon, of the APC chairman, John Odigio, who said that it's because the PDP has been in power for the last 16 years?
No. If you remember, Akpabio at some point was invited by the EFCC. Akpabio was not in power at the center. We're talking about funds from Akwa Ibom State. As I speak to you now, Suswan, the former governor of Benue State, his matter is in court. And so it's not, there are...
Mr. Obla tried to justify that by also saying that
there was a petition from an unknown person.
That the Zamfara State governor too is also in court.
This Zamfara State matters are matters that were in court before May 29. You know, see, these are cases. If you remember also, there were some cases that EFCC were prosecuting before May 29. So we shouldn't just lump all of them together. And so basically what we are saying, all of these people are politicians. I really don't have sympathy for any of them.